The rain had no mercy tonight. It pounded the glass ceiling of the five-star rooftop lounge like a cruel drumbeat, mocking Lana Qureshi as she sat alone at table 12. The flickering candle between the champagne flutes was the only thing still holding hope. Her blind date was an hour late. She checked her phone for the 15th time. No messages, no missed calls. Just one unread text from her best friend, Zara, sent half an hour ago. Don't hate me. You'll understand when you see. And she did. She understood everything the moment she turned her head. Across the lounge, under a chandelier dripping crystal light, her ex-fiancé Samir stood with Zara, smiling as they raised glasses. The same Zara who had set her up on this blind date as a distraction. The same Samir who'd ghosted Lana 6 months ago after 5 years of love and promises. Now he kissed Zara's hand. A ring sparkled. Applause erupted. Lana's chest went hollow. For a moment, the world spun without her. Then came the whispers. She's the one he left. Oh God, she's here? Awkward. Every eye turned to her like knives. Her throat burned. Her heart screamed. Her chair scraped loudly as she stood up, shoving the napkin aside like it was suffocating her. She walked fast, fled through the lounge, heels slipping on the marble as she reached the elevator. She didn't wait. She took the stairs. Outside, the downpour hit her like judgment. Her satin dress clung to her skin, soaked within seconds, her makeup smudging like old lies. The valet asked something. She ignored him. She just kept walking, away from that building, from that life, from that betrayal. Her eyes stung with tears, rain, or both. Streetlights blurred. Neon signs flashed. A black car pulled up beside her at the curb. Sleek. Silent. Its back door opened, as if by fate. She didn't think. She needed escape, and this was it. She slid in. I just need to sit. Just for a second. Please, she gasped, shivering. The scent inside was warm leather and danger. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss. She looked up and froze. He sat across from her, half in shadow, his white dress shirt blood-specked at the collar. A sharp jaw. High cheekbones. Storm-dark eyes that didn't blink. He didn't speak. He just looked at her like she was either insane or the answer to a question he hadn't dared ask. You're not my Uber, Lana whispered. No, he replied, voice low and dangerous. And you're bleeding on my seat. She looked down. Her palm was scraped, probably from the stairs. Her soaked dress was sticking to the leather. She sat up straighter, the panic setting in. I'm sorry, I thought it was raining. Still is. He tilted his head. Get out or stay. Just don't tremble like a stray. You're not a victim, are you? That made her spine straighten. No, she snapped. I'm just having a very bad night. He nodded once, slowly. Then he reached forward, gently, and handed her a silk handkerchief. Not the kind bought in stores. The kind that smelled like old money and control. She took it with shaky fingers. Their hands touched. For a split second, his eyes softened. Then hardened again. You can stay, he said, voice unreadable. For now. They sat in silence, the city blurring past the windows. His driver knew better than to ask questions. You're bleeding, Lana said, finally noticing the scratch on his neck. He didn't answer. Instead, he poured a drink from the minibar and offered it to her. Crystal glass. Something golden and expensive. She shook her head. Who are you? She asked. Does it matter? He replied. It does to me. He paused, considering her like a chess move. Then said, Damien. That's not a full name. Neither is Lana, he said, and her eyes widened. She hadn't told him her name. She hadn't said a word, had she? You know who I am? He didn't reply. Just looked out the window, the city lights reflecting in his eyes like secrets he wasn't ready to confess. And then he said, so softly she almost missed it. I've seen you before. The words made the air feel heavier. She wanted to ask where, but something about the way he said it, almost reverently, made her afraid of the answer. The car slowed. Your stop? He asked. She looked out. Her apartment. How did he know? Lana hesitated. She could ask a million questions. Or she could run from this chaos, again. But something about his presence made her feel not small, not ruined, but seen. She stepped out, hand still clutching the silk handkerchief. He didn't drive away immediately. Just watched her through the rain-speckled window. Then the car pulled off and disappeared into the city like he'd never been there. But the echo of his voice lingered. "You're not a victim." It wasn't the silence that haunted Lana the next morning. It was the nerve. Her ex and her best friend. Publicly engaged. Using her blind date night to humiliate her. Zara's text still sat on her screen, unread now by choice, like a ticking bomb she refused to defuse. And Damien, the man in the car. The stranger who said little but somehow saw everything. She hadn't returned the silk handkerchief. It was still on her dresser, folded neatly beside her phone like a challenge. No. She wasn't going to hide today. She wasn't going to be the girl everyone whispered about. She was done being small. That evening, she walked back into the Lion's Den. Same hotel, same rooftop lounge. This time with purpose. Zara and Samir were hosting a private celebratory party, a networking event masked as an engagement gala. Influencers, media, CEOs. Everyone who mattered in their world. And Lana wasn't invited. But she walked in anyway, in a crimson dress that set the room on fire the moment she stepped through the doors. Her heels echoed across the marble like a countdown. Conversation slowed. Glasses froze halfway to lips. Samir's jaw locked the moment he saw her. Zara's smile slipped. Lana smiled sweetly. "Don't worry. I won't stay long," she said, raising a champagne flute she'd just plucked off a passing tray. "Just long enough to give my blessing." "Lana, this isn't the time," Zara began. "Oh, it's the perfect time." Lana turned to the room. "Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say how thrilled I am for these two. Really." Her voice echoed across the hush. Cameras turned. Someone started recording. After all, it's not every day your fiancé disappears and your best friend helps you move on by dating him herself. A sharp gasp. Zara paled. "You said you were helping me heal," Lana continued, her voice calm but sharp. "Turns out, you were just taking what you wanted all along." Samir stepped forward. "Lana, don't do this here." She raised a brow. "Where then? At the wedding? Should I give a speech there too?" He looked angry now. "You're embarrassing yourself." "No. I did that already. When I waited for you, for 6 months. When I thought loyalty still mattered. But I'm done playing the fool." And with that, she placed the champagne glass on a table, turned on her heel, and walked out. But not before glancing toward the far end of the room, where Damian Raines stood in the shadows, watching her. Outside, she exhaled. Her heart raced, but her spine stayed straight. She hadn't planned on him being there. She didn't even know who he was, but she felt him the moment she entered. That same piercing gaze, like he saw beneath the skin. Now, footsteps echoed behind her. She turned. He stood under the entry arch, hands in his pockets, tie slightly loosened, eyes unreadable. "You weren't on the guest list," he said. "Neither were you," she replied. A beat. Then his lips curved barely. "I own the hotel." Her throat tightened. "Right. That makes sense." She turned to leave, but he stepped beside her, matching her pace as they walked. "What you did in there," he began, "was reckless." She paused. "You think I regret it?" "No," he said. "You looked like a queen claiming her throne." That stopped her. She looked up at him, the heat of those words settling somewhere she didn't want to admit. "You don't know me," she said softly. His eyes didn't flinch. "That's what I'm trying to fix." Her breath hitched. "Why?" He stepped closer. His voice dropped. "Because I've been watching from far too long. And you just showed me why I couldn't look away." Lana blinked. "What?" Before she could ask, a black car pulled up beside them. The same one from last night. He opened the door. "You're not running this time," he said. "Come with me." The city lights flickered on the wet pavement. Her heart thundered. She should say no. She should ask a million questions. but her legs moved before her doubts could catch up, and she stepped inside. The elevator doors opened with a whisper, but everything inside Lana screamed. Marble floors, abstract art, quiet classical music laced with power. She was in his building. Not just any penthouse, the Rain Tower. Midtown's most exclusive address. No press allowed, no visitors without clearance. And here she was, wrapped in silence and tension, walking beside a man she barely knew, yet who looked at her like she was the final piece in a puzzle he'd waited years to complete. Damien hadn't spoken since they got in the car. He just watched her, like he was waiting for her to run again, like he'd chase her if she did. You brought me to your home, Lana said finally, as the elevator opened to a private foyer glowing with low amber lights. No, he replied, stepping in. I brought you to the one place in this city I don't let anyone touch. The doors closed behind her, trapped in glass, marble, and tension. She turned to him. Why me? He looked at her then, not with desire, but with something much darker. Something quiet, patient, haunted. I don't know how to unsee you, Lana. The suite was a cold dream. Sleek black, soft gray, floor-to-ceiling windows bleeding the city into shadow. She paced, needing movement. Are you always like this? She asked. Mystery money mind games? Damien poured a drink, scotch neat. I don't play games. You tracked down where I live. You knew my name without asking. You show up where I am and pretend it's coincidence. Coincidence, he said, swirling the glass, is just a word people use when they don't understand intention. She blinked. What intention? You, he said simply. The silence that followed was deafening. She sat on the edge of the couch, suddenly needing answers more than air. Why me? Be honest. Did you know about the engagement party? Was I some kind of pawn? His jaw tensed. You think too small. Then tell me. He stepped closer, voice low. You walked into my car like it was fate. But I've known your name since long before that night. Her breath caught. What do you mean? He hesitated. For the first time, he looked unsure. I bought a failing event company 5 months ago. They had one junior designer who refused to pitch to investors. Said she didn't believe in selling herself. That woman was you. She stared. That was your company? He nodded. I watched the meeting through surveillance. You didn't know the camera was on, but I did. And you, his voice cracked a fraction. You were fire in a room full of smoke. I remembered you. Lana's heart stuttered. So he'd seen her before, months ago. Before the date. Before the car. Before she knew anything. She stood up, shaken. So you've been, what, watching me? Testing me? No. I stayed away. I thought I'd imagine the pull. Until that night. Until you stepped into my car, soaked in rain and rage, and I knew. He paused. I never wanted to fall into obsession again. But you, Lana, you pulled me in like gravity. The room was too still. Lana turned toward the window, needing to breathe, needing to think. She didn't trust him. But God, she didn't trust herself around him either. She felt it. This storm between them wasn't just attraction. It was something more dangerous. Like two stars pulled together by forces they didn't understand. So what now? She asked. He walked to her slowly. I want to see what happens, he said. If you don't run. If I don't ruin it. And if you do? He stopped inches from her. Then at least I'll know I tried. That for once I didn't let fear win. The room crackled with unsaid things. Then suddenly her phone rang. Saved by the bell. She stepped back and answered. It was her boss, her real boss, at her struggling design firm. Lana, we've got an emergency. We lost our venue for the Raytech Gala next week. The new location just called. Said someone from the top pulled our booking. They offered a refund, but we're blacklisted. She froze. Raytech? As in? Yes. The Rain Group. Lana, please tell me this isn't your fault. She turned slowly toward Damien, heart plummeting. His glass was back on the table. He looked calm. Too calm. Did you do this? She whispered. He didn't answer. But he didn't deny it either. Her face went pale. You pulled my job into this? I needed to see if you'd come to me, he said quietly. Now you have a choice. Her voice was ice. So this was a game. No, he said. This is just the beginning. You sabotaged my job, Lana said, her voice cracking under the weight of betrayal. You pulled strings behind my back, why? Damien didn't flinch. He stood there, tall, composed, unreadable. Because I didn't want to meet you in boardrooms and fake meetings, he said softly. I wanted you to see me.
Not just the CEO. Me.
Her laugh was hollow. You want honesty from me, yet you use power to control the board beneath my feet? He stepped forward, but she stepped back. Lana. No, she cut him off. You don't get to say my name like that. Like you earned it. The silence that followed was loaded, sharp as broken glass. Outside the penthouse window, thunder cracked the sky. Damien exhaled slowly. You're right, but there's more you need to know. I think I've had enough of your brand of truth, thanks. But then he said a name that stopped her mid-turn. Armin Qureshi. Her father's name. Her entire body went cold. What did you just say? Damien's gaze lowered for the first time. I knew him, he admitted. Years ago. Before the money. Before the company. He was one of my mentors. Before he lost everything. Her chest tightened like a fist had gripped her lungs. My father died heartbroken, drowning in debt and shame. And you, her voice cracked. You were part of the company that crushed his last project. I wasn't the CEO then. I was a strategist. And yes, I led the acquisition that dissolved his firm. But I didn't know he was your father. Not until I saw your last name at that pitch meeting. Lana's hands trembled. The air between them turned suffocating. You ruined my family. I didn't know. But you did know when I walked into your car. You recognized me. You knew who I was. And still, you chased me. Yes, he said, voice rough, because I needed to make it right. But not with a press release or a check. With something real. Tears pricked Lana's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You thought if you controlled everything, I'd fall in love with you? You thought you could rewrite history? No, his voice was raw now. I just wanted one thing in this world that wasn't built on guilt. Lana turned away, her heart pounding, memory after memory flashing like lightning. Her father's funeral, the eviction notice, her mother's silence. And now this. You watched me struggle. You knew I was barely holding on. And you did nothing. I didn't want pity to be my currency. I wanted your truth. She turned on him. Then here's my truth. Every second I spent thinking you were different was a mistake. The pain in his eyes was real. But it wasn't enough. Not now. Not when the cracks in her soul had names. She walked to the door.
Paused.
You didn't just break my trust, she said without turning. You broke what little hope I had left in believing people could love without control. And then she left. Later that night, rain blurred the city, lights once again. Lana sat alone in her dark apartment, holding her father's old watch, the one thing they hadn't pawned. It ticked softly against her palm, a painful reminder of time lost, truth withheld, love twisted by power. And somewhere high above, in the tower that bore his name, Damien stood at the window, drenched in shadows, watching the same rain. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers, champagne, and curated smiles, but Lana was on fire. Not the good kind. Not the radiant, powerful glow she'd felt when she stood up for herself in front of Zara and Samir.
No.
This was heat from betrayal, pain, and the brutal knowledge that the man who claimed to see her had been watching from behind a glass wall all along. And now he was here. Damien Rain, the keynote speaker at the Raytech Gala. The very event she had helped design, before her firm was pulled off the project by someone at the top. He stood on the stage, poised and powerful in a black suit, addressing hundreds of elite guests with calm precision. But his eyes? They searched for one face. Hers. Lana lingered by the tall windows, dressed in midnight blue, clutching a wine glass she hadn't touched. Her pulse pounded with every word he spoke. What we build should never come at the cost of what we break. Damien said, his voice low and resonant. A company, a name, a life. None of it means anything if we forget the human cost. Lana flinched. Is this for me? She wondered bitterly. The crowd clapped. Damien stepped down, and the music swelled again. But he didn't return to the VIP table. He walked straight to her. Guests parted like waves, the room falling into an eerie hush. The moment stretched long and sharp, like the edge of a blade. Lana set her glass down, spine straight, face unreadable. You shouldn't be here, she said coldly. I had to be, Damien replied, stopping inches from her. I wanted you to hear the truth without walls. You already gave me the truth, she snapped. And it shattered everything. I didn't lie. You withheld. You manipulated. You crossed every boundary I didn't give you permission to touch. The music faded. Eyes turned. Whispers rippled. I fell for a stranger who turned out to be the architect of my father's ruin, she said, voice rising. And now you want what? Forgiveness? Redemption? Damien's jaw tightened. I want you to know I didn't come into your life to destroy anything else. I came to fix what I broke, without knowing I broke it. And when you did know, you still pushed forward. Because I couldn't stop, he said, voice raw. Lana, I've lived half a life building things no one will remember. You walked into my world, and suddenly I wanted something permanent. That's not love, she said sharply. That's possession. More whispers.
Cameras now.
Someone was recording. Damien lowered his voice. I don't care who's watching. I'll say it here. I fell in love with you, before I even knew who you were. And I stayed in love after I found out. Lana's throat tightened, but she didn't break. You love the version of me you created in your head. The girl who was brave enough to challenge you. The girl you couldn't control. But I'm not a symbol, Damien. I'm not your redemption story. He looked shattered. And for a moment so did she. Then she stepped past him, her heels echoing across marble, eyes stinging but fierce. She didn't stop. Not when his voice followed her. Not even when he whispered her name like a man losing everything. Lana. Outside, the city was cruel and cold, but real. Lana stood beneath the awning as paparazzi flashes went off like lightning. Her chest rose and fell, the air too thick to breathe. A sleek car pulled up. Not his. Hers. She got in, slammed the door, refused to look back. Upstairs, Damien remained frozen by the window. A reporter murmured, Was that his girlfriend? Someone else whispered, That was Lana Qureshi, the one whose father.
He didn't care what they said.
He only heard what she didn't say.
Goodbye.
3 weeks later, Lana Qureshi stood on the stage of her own event, flawless, fearless, and finally free. The grand launch of LQ Designs was packed. Influencers, local press, major clients. Everyone who once overlooked her now watched with admiration. She wore white, not for purity, but for rebirth. Like ash rising into light. No Zara. No Samir. No Damien Rain. And yet he lingered. In her thoughts. In the crowd. In the corners of the city where her heart still tried to forget his voice. But she'd made her choice. Her story was no longer about surviving men who wanted to own her fire. It was about becoming the wildfire.
She stepped to the mic.
I was once told I wasn't brave enough to lead. That I was too soft to build something strong. And for a while I believed that. Until I realized, she smiled gently, softness is not weakness. It's the ability to rise, even after being shattered. Thunderous applause erupted. Cameras flashed. She bowed her head and stepped back. She was done running from her past. But she wasn't ready for what waited in the shadows behind the curtain. Damien. He stood there, still as stone, but his eyes betrayed everything he couldn't say. Congratulations, he said softly. You weren't invited. I didn't come to make a scene, he said, slipping his hands into his coat. I came to return something. From his pocket, he pulled a familiar watch, her father's. She stared. I had it repaired, he added quietly. The second hand was stuck at the exact time he passed away. I thought maybe it should start again. She took it gently, fingertips grazing his. The weight of it. The memories. Thank you, she whispered. A beat. He looked away. I also came to say goodbye. Her breath caught. Damien continued, voice hoarse. I stepped down. From Rain Group. Effective yesterday. What? She breathed. I liquidated my shares. Transferred a chunk into a charity fund named after your father. And I gave your former firm the Raytech contract with your name on it. Lana blinked, stunned. Why would you? Because I want nothing from you, he said, eyes fierce. Not your forgiveness. Not your pity. Not your love. Silence. I wanted to prove that I could walk away from power. From control. From obsession. I wanted to prove to myself that what I felt for you wasn't possession. It was truth. The lump in her throat grew unbearable. I told you once, he continued, that I couldn't unsee you. And maybe I never will. But loving you means letting you go, even if you never look back. He turned to leave, then paused. But if you ever want someone who will never try to own your fire, only protect it from the wind. He didn't finish. He just walked into the crowd, disappearing like mist into light. That night, Lana sat on her apartment balcony, staring at the repaired watch ticking in her palm. For once, it didn't feel like it was counting down to grief. It felt like a beginning. She closed her eyes, letting the city wind rush over her. And when she opened them, her heart whispered a single word. Maybe. Epilogue tease. Somewhere overseas, a news ticker flashed. Ex-CEO Damien Rain funds women-led venture accelerator program, refuses all credit. And on her phone, Lana received a message with no name. Just one line. Still not running. She smiled. This story wasn't over. Not yet.